Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Chrism, and I'd like to welcome you to this weekly Kundalini gathering, as my lovely co-host Santara has expressed in the chat room. The chat room is open, and I'd like to welcome everybody to this program, including the people in the chat room right now and the callers who are calling in. It's a welcome to everyone here. And we'll just go ahead and begin. Just as we must surrender ourselves to the natural environment, we surrender ourselves to the varying temperatures, and we surrender ourselves to the wetness or the coldness or the heat or the dryness. We surrender ourselves to the need to keep this physical body healthy and fed and clothed. And we keep this body in a very continuous level of intake from the environment. So must we also keep ourselves in a very surrendered state to the Kundalini. The examples are all around us. The examples are in our everyday life. But one of the areas that I don't talk about too much, and I apologize for that, is the inner dialogue that we have with ourselves. And in many ways, this is how we program ourselves to do a certain thing, or to withstand a certain thing, or to accept or surrender to a certain thing. And it's very important for people to understand the effect and the power that our inner dialogue has upon us, and really to understand that the inner dialogue is a mixture of mostly two aspects of who we are. The inner dialogue is comprised of the higher mental functioning self and the lower ego self. The ego self will describe the wants, the needs, the desires, the fears, basically the desires of the ego. And the higher functioning mental self will look at that and go, well, okay, what is actually doable, what is actually smart, what is actually healthy for the mind, the body, and the spirit. And this is a huge level of communication, self-communication, that we take totally for granted every day. It's the nature of ourselves that we also surrender to every day, as within, so without. And the without is the out of doors, is the opening the door, standing in the rain and in the hail, as I was just doing, and just observing how impactful the exterior forces of nature are, and at the same time how impactful the interior forces of nature are. And I think it's very important to go out and stand in the harsh weather, the heavy rain, the hail, the snow, the sun, the wind, and feel from a Kundalini standpoint, from where you are in your Kundalini equation, from the awakened state or the activated state of Kundalini, and even from the searching state, when you're not really, you haven't really stepped into the Kundalini very far. Maybe it's something that you're looking at doing, and you begin to look at how the outer reflects the inner and the inner reflects the outer. And so when you go out and you stand in a storm, and I don't recommend people to do some of the things that I've done with regards to that, walking naked into a blizzard. It's different when you have the Kundalini. When you have the Kundalini, you have forces that can modulate the exterior forces of nature. So, for instance, when I would go out naked in the snow, I would melt the snow around me rather than be frozen by the temperature. And it doesn't matter if you're going into a frozen lake or the frozen water, or, whatever it is. The Kundalini has the ability to mitigate the harm to the body. Not saying that you want to do a swan dive into a volcano, but I am saying that to a specific degree, Kundalini will have the ability to modulate how the exterior forces of nature interact with the human system. And so when you're out into nature and you're feeling the wind, you're hearing the wind, you're seeing the aspen leaves flutter in this beautiful unison of movement. If you're living near aspen trees, or you hear the roar of the wind through pine trees, if you're living near pine trees, or just the howl of the wind as it whips around a building in like a skyscraper or something like that. Listen to it and feel the resonance of that experience within your interior areas as well. Allow the Kundalini to really begin to give you information about the forces of nature outside and the forces of nature inside, and how they are a direct reflection of each other. And this goes to the inner dialogue that we have with ourselves as we choose the level of programming that our society wants us to have, and as we choose whether or not we are going to partake of that programming. Much of Western societal programming is about getting more or getting what you want, or being able to remove what you don't want. So getting more money or removing a disease from your body, things of that nature. And that will often take a large portion of our inner dialogue will be about, oh gosh, I want more money so I can get that boat, or I can get that promotion, or I can get that travel trailer, or I can get that beautiful dress for my spouse, or I can get the gift of a college education to my children. And at the same time, you will say, you'll be programming yourself to, gosh, I hope that I don't get into an accident, or I don't get sick, or I don't have some sort of calamity happen to me or my children or my family or my friends. And you're constantly in this want of gain and fear of loss paradigm. And this is the inner dialogue, cranking it away. Even as you do your job, whatever it is you do, between these little moments of good focus on what it is you're doing, back behind that focus is that eternal hamster wheel of want of gain and fear of loss, and going round and round and round in your head. This ties in to the Kundalini development within an individual. This ties in with the development of a person who is say in the surrendering stages of the Kundalini. And I'm going to stop right here, just open my eyes, and I forgot to do a sound check. So hopefully I have not been talking to the air. Cole or Mary Jean or David, could you let me know if people are hearing? Thank you, David. Thank you. I'll go back to the stream. Diving back in here. And so as we begin to examine how our Kundalini is asking us to do things that are against the societal programming, does it come up in your inner dialogue? Are you practicing what the Kundalini wants you to do with the programming tool of the inner dialogue? And if you are not, then you are displacing yourself from an incredibly valuable tool of refinement that grace has given you, which is the bridge, literally, the bridge between the ego and the higher mental functioning consciousness. And the bridge of communication that can happen in a constant way, in a constant level, as we begin to revitalize and reinterpret our lives within the Kundalini awakened state, the Kundalini activated state. It's very, very important. So you're going to, in some ways, be forced to change the expression of your life, change the way you see yourself, change the way you see other people. And yet, that force within yourself that wants to resist change, that doesn't want change to occur, will constantly come in and remind you about, oh, that's not right, Chrism. Don't, you cannot look at those people and think those thoughts. It is not right. It is not supported by society. Therefore, you must change your, no, I refuse to change. No. This is how it is. This is how I want it to be. Therefore, that is what is going to take place. And yet, the Kundalini and the higher mental functioning person within you is going to say, no. We will look at these people within the understandings of grace, within the understandings of the divine, and we will no longer imprison ourselves into the programming of society that is based in egocentric emotional response. We will see these people differently than that, and we will open our hearts to them, and we will see them as the brothers and sisters, fathers and daughters, mothers and sons that they are to us, to this world. And this is a very important way to begin to reprogram these areas of the soul, these areas of our spiritual refinement as spirits in a body, as the soul body. Kundalini evolution happens very quickly, especially when it's consciously understood that this is what is going on. And as that conscious understanding unfolds within the individual, it invites a cascade of other understandings that support the level of reprogramming that we're talking about with regards to the inner dialogue and how we can be in a constant level of spiritual Kundalini refinement as the arms of grace continuously enfold us and press us to the heart of itself within us, which is in the Kundalini. The Kundalini is in the heart of the person. The 8 atoms of divinity exist within the heart. The energy and consciousness of the Kundalini is triggered, which is dormant at the base of the spine. So it's like a big check mark from the heart to the base of the spine and then straight up the spine. And as we encourage a reformatting of our inner dialogue between the higher mental functioning self and the ego self, we can begin to truly construct the third bridge. Okay, you have the bridge between the higher mental functioning self and the ego. We have the bridge between the higher mental functioning self and the Kundalini, and we have a bridge between the Kundalini and the ego. So there's your trinity right there. And as we begin to build all 3 of the bridges, we can begin to circulate a current of understanding and refinement and reprogramming across those 3 bridges into the entirety of our self. This is what I'm suggesting that people do today. Change your inner dialogue. Change it to be conducive to the Kundalini and what the Kundalini wants you to do with regards to your judgment, with regards to your needs, with regards to the priorities in your life, with regards to the level of exercise that you give yourself, the diet that you feed yourself, the diet that you feed yourself through words and images, and how those words and images correspond with fantasies or with goals in your life, or with how you see other people to be. Talking about change. Changing the inner dialogue to have that inner change reflecting into the outer environment. So you may not see that homeless person the same way anymore. The Kundalini may actually send a tendril of itself into that homeless person and feed you a level of information about what that person's going through. Every now and again, I'm going to hear some sort of a musical crescendo from my computer. I have no idea what that is, but it's there, and you just might hear it too, so my apologies. It's very important for you to understand the necessity for the change and the evolution of the inner dialogue that we go through 24/7 when we're awake, at least, if you're awake all day or all night. This will also have an effect on the dreaming self as well. It's one thing to hear a Kundalini person like myself talking about these things through your computer, through your smartphone, or in the archives, and I welcome everybody listening in the archives. It's one thing to hear it that way. It's a very different thing to have to do it all the time. To have it thrust in your face every day, day in, day out, night in, night out. And to some degree, I'm asking my Kundalini to have that occur for everyone who listens to this program today. It's an amazing level of intimacy that I'm talking about here, because within that inner dialogue, we harbor our fantasies, our joys, our loves, our desires, our fears, the projections of who we think we are, who we think other people are, and how we interpret our world and our country and our society and our education and our health. And it is an amazing bastion of clear communication and clear levels of understanding that we harbor within our thoughts as we go through our inner dialogue. Even now, as you're listening to me, you're running these concepts through your inner dialogue. For myself, I'm surrendering to the Kundalini within me. And because I've done it so much that there's literally a stream of information that goes across all three bridges and is coming into you, coming into your ears, coming into your subtle body, coming into your spine, and coming into your Kundalini. It's like this very long hyperspace bridge that I'm building to each and every one of you, that the Kundalini in me is building. And I want you to open to this and surrender yourself to this and allow this to create a level of interaction with you and your Kundalini, and the level and interaction of change within your inner dialogue. Once again, for those of you who have just come on board, I'm talking about the inner dialogue that occurs when we just think to ourselves as we're walking down the street, our hands in our pockets, and we're just kind of looking ahead, and we're looking at the buses or the cars or the sidewalk or the country road or the forested area, and we're just thinking our thoughts. Well, that is the inner dialogue. Going past that homeless person, a person who perhaps doesn't have the level of Kundalini in them that others would have. might see a homeless person and go, oh my God, I want to cross the street. I don't want to go near that person. He looks dangerous. Or that beautiful man or beautiful woman and looking ahead and going, oh my gosh, they just get better as they get closer. All of these types of little mini conversations that we have behind our eyes, and behind our ears, and behind our heart, as we live our lives within this world of spiritual evolution. Really, this world is all about that. So I want to invite each and every one of you to honor the bridge that my Kundalini is extending towards you right now in real time. And that includes those of you listening in the archives, because time within the Kundalini context is a very, very manipulatable thing. It can be manipulated very easy. Take a sheet of paper, bring the two ends to meet each other. And that's what the Kundalini can do with time. So you have past time and you have future time, and you can bring the two together to form a kind of present time awareness within you. Time and temporal mechanics really only exist for the benefit of humanity. Outside of humanity, time is a very different construct. It's a very different situation. And so let the bridge of this inner dialogue reassignment, the bridge of inner dialogue evolution, reach into your heart. Let it reach into your Kundalini right now as I'm speaking. And start to alter the way you think about things. Maybe you could start taking out negative, hurtful judgments about other people. Maybe you could take out excessive levels of lust or pornographic fantasies that may be of a hurtful nature to the person you're thinking about, or to your own soul as you go through that. Maybe you can take out some of the desires for fabulous wealth at whatever cost. Maybe you could take out some of the fears of not having what you need. Maybe you could take out some of the desires of having more than you need. Think about this. Feel the bridge of grace within me that is extending itself into you. Feel it. Open yourself to it. Start examining what your inner dialogue is telling you. Is it telling you that you're not good enough? You're not handsome enough? You're not pretty enough? You're not the right weight or the right height? If it's telling you any of those things, stop that program. End that program. Allow the gift of grace that is coming to you right now to help you alter how you feel about these areas of your life. You are good enough. You are worthy. You're hearing this information. And if you were not worthy, you would not be hearing it. And worthiness is only equivalent to the level of a person who is ready or not. Ready has a much broader application of understanding, and it verges into the worthiness. You are worthy to have this change. You are worthy to have this evolution. You're pretty enough. You have the right weight for where you want to be at this time. You have the right color of hair. You have the right level of intellect. You are worthy in every form of the word to have this information and to let it begin to change you. Let it begin to embrace the nature of yourself. Kundalini really is the nature of who you are. Just like the cocoon is natural to the caterpillar or the butterfly, so is Kundalini natural to the evolving semi-divine human being. We also get our wings, and we also have to struggle to make those wings work, just like the butterfly. The butterfly is such an amazingly accurate symbol of a Kundalini process within a human being. We're mostly surrounded by caterpillars, if you get my drift. Caterpillars of many different ages and sizes and evolutionary levels, and eggs, of course, lots of little eggs. But this world is mostly comprised of caterpillars. There's a few of us that have burst into the butterfly, the semi-divine human, that is our evolutionary goal, at least on this world. There are other worlds to learn from too, beyond this one. If you have any questions about what I'm talking about, the guest call-in number would be United States area code 347-934-0026. If you're calling from another country, put 001, I believe, in front of the 347. So 347-934-0026. Feel free to call in. And I'm going to introduce my co-host. She is the one who started this program back in 2012, and very pleased for the service that she is giving to so many people in so many different ways. This show is just one way. And so I'd like to introduce Amelia Santara. Hello, Amelia.
Hi. Hello, Chrism. Hi, everyone in the chat room and in the archives. Good to be here.
It's good to be here. Yes, indeed. It is very, very good to be here. Now, tell me, what have you learned from the maturation of your inner dialogue, Santara?
Oh, Chris, and okay, give me a moment to come back. Because when I'm listening to your voice and you're suggesting about the bridge, it takes me a while to come back. I suppose, Chrism, for me, I always have had, I've been aware of a dialogue. Like when I was a child, I became aware of a dialogue, an inner dialogue, because I didn't dialogue with anybody else. And I have been very aware of an inner dialogue. And I remember then throughout my life, that changed in different ways. And back in 1990, I think it was, my activation was happening then, but I wasn't aware of it. But I also began to train as a counselor, And when you're doing that kind of training, you begin to look at your programming and your story and your family of origin. And you're encouraged to look at inner dialogues and that sort of thing. But the interesting thing, Chrism, is that even within that context, there was a certain belief system being given, a certain way that we were given to look at our inner dialogue, that actually, once Kundalini awakened, that had to be disintegrated as well, if that makes sense. What you were saying about the lower ego functioning self and the higher mental functioning self, I'd be aware of that. And then Kundalini came, and she is in the dialogue now. I didn't have that before, you see. It was just a two-way dialogue, if you know what I mean. I could observe it, but it was a two-way dialogue between my lower and my higher mentally functioning self. But Kundalini changed all that, and she's there now. the third dialogue, and I think that's what you're talking about, the bridge. I hadn't seen it in that way before, you know.
It's a triangle.
A triangle, yeah.
So
anyway, they're my thoughts.
Yeah, thank you very much, Santara. Thank you. And it's true, the social programming that we're surrounded with within our, as we live in our society, it does have the ability to contaminate the purity of our evolutionary form. And so, as Amelia so correctly said, and I thank you again, Amelia, for that, it has to go away. It has to go away, and it will go away. Now, some of the impediments to the triangular bridge system within us would be entities. Entities will step in and add a fourth level of communication, and the entity level of communication. So now we're not looking at so much of a triangle, but we're looking perhaps, say, at a pyramid, and the entity level of communication will tie into the ego. It will also sometimes tie in, create a bridge to the higher mental functioning self. And the Kundalini will just kind of stand back and allow that to occur. And part of our responsibility of having the Kundalini and having this great access to amazing levels of power is a responsibility to discern the truth from the lie based upon how the lie that is being given to us, typically from entities, is being used as a pivot towards levels of corruption. Levels of corruption that are taught to us in many different ways in the society. The Bhagavad Gita teaches us about levels of corruption of the human spirit. The Christian Bible teaches us about levels of corruption to the human spirit. The 8 limbs of Buddhism teach us about the levels of corruption that can occur to the human spirit, and so on and so forth. Islam teaches us about the levels of corruption to the human spirit. I've got to cover all the big ones, because people will go, oh, well, he didn't say that. So we're surrounded also, or I shouldn't say surrounded, I would say we are given the option to look at ourselves through the teachings of spiritual dialogues that society has decided are okay. The religions that I just mentioned right now, society decide, well, okay, that's all right. We'll teach, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, these types of things. And this is great, and this is good. And if a person can adhere to many of these teachings within the sacred books and the sacred writings of these large religions, then so be it. And I think that can be very, very helpful in character building and can invite the Kundalini into an individual. As I've said in other programs, religion, where the peak of the religion goes, is where the Kundalini begins. And so this is true. If a person can maintain that level of understanding and bring that level of understanding from just a concept into an activity, that person can begin to embrace the divine within. But until that occurs, unless there's some sort of a karmic deferment, the person will be in a constant level of refinement within the cocoon, so to speak, and learning and transforming, from building the cocoon and then being in the cocoon, etc. Along the line of that comparison. And so it's important for people to begin to change this inner dialogue. But by changing it, you have to examine it very closely. You have to look at, well, do I own that thought? Did that thought come from my ego? Did it come from my higher mental functioning self? Did it come from Kundalini? Or did it come from something else? When I speak of the triangle, it's a very, very pure bridge system. And it's the platform that many other bridge systems can emanate from. And the entity bridge system can emanate or attach itself to your triangle and make you think that you need to become a medium or a channeler or an axe murderer or president of the United States. Not that I'm judging. I'm not judging here. I mean, we'll see what the guy does. But entities can attach themselves to an individual. And it's not just dead people. It's also, the ETs, extraterrestrials, and interdimensional creation of divinity that also coexist with us upon this physical world, this physical realm. Many, it's like the ripples in a pond. One circular ripple represents our physical world. Well, then you add 1,000 other pebbles into the river or into the pond, and they all intersect with each other. And this is what's happening here. This is what challenges us here. This is what forces us to look in a much more clear way into our inner dialogue and what it is we're actually saying to ourselves, what it is we're actually programming ourselves with. So I have to ask you a question. In what way are you programming yourself towards Kundalini? Or are you just being a passive receiver? Just being a passive receiver, and it's like, oh gosh, Kundalini told me not to eat meat, so I won't eat meat today. And then the next day, oh, Kundalini told me that I should only eat meat, and so that's all I'm going to eat today. Or are you really engaging the process? Are you really looking in to the connection that the Kundalini has with you and allowing yourself to learn what is needed from the Kundalini to you, embracing it actively? And one way of embracing it actively right now, this very moment, is to accept the invitation that my Kundalini is sending to you. That bridge of opportunity to change your inner dialogue towards a greater divine radiance response to who you are and how you are and what you are and where you are. That bridge is coming straight from my heart, straight through Blog Talk Radio, straight into you in real time, no matter when you hear this. Open yourself to this, ladies and gentlemen. If you're seeking the Kundalini, then open yourself to this. If you're within an activated state of the Kundalini, open yourself to this. If you're in the awakened state and you're hearing this for whatever reason, open yourself to this. Allow the Kundalini to serve you and to evolve you and to change the way that you communicate with yourself. Feel the love that the sacred Kundalini wants to bring into that inner dialogue. Feel the clear clarity of truth and the adherence to truth and the adherence to honesty and the adherence to love and self-discipline, humility, and service that the Kundalini wants to bring into you. Feel the levels of health within your blood and within your brain and your flesh and your bones and your lungs and every part of you. Feel the Kundalini circulating through you as a component of your bloodstream, as a component of the neural electric stream that enlivens the cells. Feel the communion with the 16 to 17 trillion other cells that all come together to provide you with this body. Do you see the level of divine incorporation that is happening already within you? Bring that into the awareness of your inner dialogue. Bring that appreciation, that gratitude into your inner dialogue constantly. Not saying that you can't ask a question. Matter of fact, when you begin to clean up your inner dialogue, and by that I mean taking away the self-doubt, taking away the fear, taking away the propagation of certain levels of societal programming, the pornography, the wants and the desires and the fears and the loss. As you begin to clean that out of your inner dialogue and replace it with strict Kundalini understanding, strict Kundalini teachings, the power of your inner dialogue to create what it is that you may need or what it is that will serve you is immense. Abracadabra, I create. Abracadabra means I create as I speak. But it's not just the outer voice that you're creating with. It's the inner voice that you're creating with as well. Matter of fact, it's the inner voice that provides the power to the outer voice. So I'm inviting you to create as you think. Create as you think. And let that inner dialogue be changed. Do it now, right now. Accept that opportunity. Accept that bridge within yourself. It starts now, right now. As you listen to my voice, you're already partaking of the Kundalini within you. Feel the invitation. You can hear the invitation. Let it resonate with your grace and begin to actually change, actually evolve. As you change the inner dialogue, you change the awareness that you have of the many different facets of Kundalini that are being offered to you, but that you are also being changed into. It's sharpening your awareness of what's going on around you with your family, your spouse, your kids, your family, your workmates, the strangers that you meet on the road, the wildlife that you encounter as you walk or as you move through this world, the oxygen, nitrogen, argon that you breathe, the sunlight that lands on your skin, the wind that creeps through your clothing, the cold, the heat, the dryness, the moisture. All of these things coalesce within you, and you develop a much different appreciation of what it is to be alive on this world and what it is to really begin to access an appreciation for the divine flesh, the flesh made divine, the Word of God upon the flesh of God's creation. the activated and awakened Kundalini within you. Defying the gravitational pull of ego thinking, and climbing that mountain of refinement, that mountain of grace, and accepting the gifts of grace, such as these bridges that I'm extending to you. And let's bring Amelia back on board. Hi, Amelia.
Hi, Chrism.
Are you back?
Yeah. I feel you should then play something gentle so we can all just stay in this place for a little while longer.
That's not a bad plan. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Just a second. It's not a bad plan, to be honest with you. I feel that motivation to stay in the sacred space right now. I really do. I totally feel it. And Amelia's suggestion is really good. So I'm going to say a prayer here right now. It's a prayer that I say quite often with the Kundalini people that I work with, because it has to do with the elimination of blockages within a person's, in this case, within their communication to self and of self and by self, and the communication with others, the communication with nature, the communication with the elements of this world and universe and multiverse. I'll go ahead and say that. Listen to these words and reflect on the bridge that I'm extending to you today. You don't hear me saying this on this program very much. I'm not doing this every day. I'm not doing it every Wednesday either. This is one of the few times, if not the only time, that I have used the extension of bridges from my awakened Kundalini to your Kundalini equation. So here we go. Gana untam gana patia bamhe. Kavin mupamashavastimam. Jeshteracham. Raminam. Aspata anaha. Nasimvanu TVC. Desaranam. Feel the blockages dissolve. Feel the Grantley knots begin to dissolve. Feel the impediments to your personal grace begin to dissolve. Not all at once, not all at the same time, but at the time of conscious recognition within yourself of this blockage removal opportunity. Begin to recognize that you have that option, that you have that opportunity. And these bridges that I'm offering you right now are going to begin to help you dissolve the blockages that inner programming can conceive within you. Open your heart, your mind, your spine to this invitation. Feel it. Even between the words that I'm speaking, can you hear the silence? Can you feel the grace in the spaces between my words? A full stream of energy is coming into you right now, right into your ears, right into your spine, right into your mind and into your soul and into your Kundalini. Feel it. Whether I say words or not, you know my presence is here. And because my presence is here, my awakened Kundalini is here too. And it's streaming right into you. Feel it. Feel it. I'm here. And I'm there. I'm outside of you and I'm inside of you all at the same time. Feel it. Feel it now. Feel it now. Feel it now. Feel it reaching through the phone, reaching through the computer, into your ears, into your mind, into all of your chakras, into your Kundalini. Feel that invitation. You choose if you want to accept it. You choose. Thank you, Amelia, for that suggestion.
Thank you, Chrism. Thank you, and your Kundalini.
And you and yours, and everyone here who's listening and participating. Thank you all for even being here, for even being alive on this world, bringing your grace into this world. Thank you, Cole. Okay, Amelia, have we had an opportunity to find any questions for the program today?
Yes, I have 2 questions that came into my inbox and a few from the group. Could the chat room tell me if there's, am I speaking twice because I can hear it in my own earphones? If nobody else is hearing it, I'll continue.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Can you hear me twice, Chrism?
No, I hear you once.
Okay, well, if it's okay, then I put up with it myself.
Oh,
Echo,
Mary.
there is an echo.
Oh,
it's not
my
that bad.
Oh, no.
Oh, I hate that.
Why don't you log out and log back in, okay?
I'll do that.
I'll tap dance.
Okay.
You know, I actually can tap dance. I'm not kidding. You know, I can do a false shuffle, ball, step, change, flap, as they call it. Shuffle, ball, change, flap. Am I also echoing, folks? Do you hear an echo coming from my microphone? Could somebody type? So everybody typed for Amelia. Nobody's typing for me. It's like, oh my God. Oh, Mary Jean, thank you. Thank you. Amelia asked, and everybody in the chat room, oh my God, they're all typing. I asked, and they're like going, what do you mean?
I'm back.
Okay, all right. Thank you. All right, well, let's try some of these questions here. Maybe we can all learn something.
Okay, the first question is, I have read that Kundalini awakening is a biological process. And
I
steps
wonder where they read
in
that.
Sequence. Is this true? Steps completed in sequence.
Yeah, it is true. I mean, part of the process is biological, but only part of the process is biological. It's not like that one woman said who wrote that book says. It's not that way at all. She's addicted to science, and she's kind of trying to make science agree. She's just really covering only one facet of a many-faceted jewel. But, you can't deny it. I mean, because Kundalini happens to biological organisms, well, then hello. It can be said to be also a biological process. Over.
Mm-hmm. And are steps completed in sequence, Chrism?
Are steps completed in sequence? Some are and some aren't. The sequence of steps accept the basic energetic dynamics of, say, an activation or awakening. Those can be completed in a fairly foreseeable way. But the effects of those energetic dynamics will always be unique to the individual, and they will not follow an exact sequence for everybody. Over.
I'm just asking this now myself. It could be said, or could it not, that the steps, the sequences repeat themselves?
Yeah, to some degree, sure.
To some degree, yeah, okay. The next question is, can an entity possess our animals and then communicate to us through them?
Yes. An entity can possess an animal. The higher entities won't. But the lower entities can do that, depending. You have to understand that part of what you surround yourself is also, part of the consciousness that surrounds yourself is also part of your karma. And so as your karma dictates. So if you're a sorcerer and say you're doing some evil things, and you might bring a crow up to you and try to push a negative entity consciousness into that crow to teach it to attack people or things of that nature. And within the eyes of sorcery, that can occur. Within the Kundalini, it can also occur, but it occurs in a much different way. It's not so much concerned with power or position, which is what sorcery is all about. It's far more concerned with the evolution of the soul. And so if an angelic form would like to bring itself into the consciousness of a cat, so to speak, and I'm speaking of Lasha here, then it could indeed do that. And that animal would begin to exhibit the signs and symptoms of what your Kundalini would want to teach yourself. So by virtue of the pet being around you all the time, like say Lasha is with me, I can observe Lasha and I can see divine teachings extended through her to me. But it would be a possession, but within the understandings of divinity, it isn't. It's hard to put a handle on that. Over.
Okay. Thanks, Chrism.
Thank
Is
you.
watching television bad for a Kundalini awakened or activated being?
Only if you're not watching the things that I like to watch. Then it'll be bad for you.
I don't know.
Stargate and all these things. No, I mean, for me, it isn't bad. I mean, I saw that question on the group, and for me, it isn't bad because I can separate them. But early on in the Kundalini, it's difficult to separate them, separate what you're seeing, and it's very good to steer clear of horror movies, movies that would glorify gruesome killings, serial killings, sexual killings, or any kind of a form of sexual deviancy. A lot of negative entities hang out in theaters, movie theaters. And you go into a movie like, say, The Exorcist, or some of these other really, Hannibal the Cannibal type movies. You're putting yourself into contact with entities that would have an interest in propagating more of those thoughts in your dreams, in your inner dialogue, and forming a bridge of terror within you as you begin to develop along the lines of Kundalini activation or awakening. And so within that context, no, I would say television is an absolute no-no. But I also support the nurturing of filtration. You must be able to filtrate through the different levels of discontent and disharmony in the environment, because you're going to be walking through it every day anyway. You're going to be walking past the pornography magazines on the magazine shelf, or with all the different television channels you have now. You have the porn channel, or you have the horror channel, or you have the terror channel. You have the gruesome channels of depravity are at the click of your channel remote. And you do need to be able to filter that. It's like people say, oh, don't listen to the news. I never, ever listen to the news. I just cannot stand it. It just drives me nuts. But I listen to the news. I listen to the news because I filter through my Kundalini what is truth and what is not. Constantly. And I want to invite everybody listening to this to listen to the news and ask their Kundalini what is true and what is not. And don't expect words as an answer. Don't expect to hear words. Expect to feel the answer. Expect to feel that answer. Over.
Thanks, Chrism. That leads on to another question, actually, which was on the group. How do you deal with the political situation here? And this lady was speaking about Europe, but we could apply it anywhere.
Yes,
I can't.
Yes, the German thing going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of war preparation happening on Eastern Europe right now, on the borders of Russia. And the news isn't covering this so much. The local news is covering it, but for the United States and other parts of Europe, that's a story that's not really being told because the powers that be don't really want that to be told. But there's a lot of troop movement and war machine movement, warcraft, I should say, movement happening in the Baltic states and in Poland and along the German border and the Finland border and all down the borders of Russia. NATO is beefing up its presence there, and it kind of like in preparation either for a new Cold War or for an active World War III. And when you look at some of the laws that are happening in the former East Germany, which is where this lady's writing from, some fairly strong laws towards the, how do I say it, you're being forced to share that which pretty much no one else in any other country is being forced to share. You're being forced to give your car. It's just one example. If an immigrant couple needs a ride home, then you can have your car commandeered, driven by policemen, and they drive your car with those immigrants home. The policeman drops them off home in your car, and then hopefully drives your car back to pick you up and gives you back your car keys. This is one example that would not fly here in the United States at all. That would be a Civil War thing. But in Germany, the former Eastern Germany, these are the kinds of very, very, very strict laws that are being pushed onto the German population. And this is forming some very, very strong levels of resentment. And this is Angela Merkel's government that is doing this. And it's literally forming levels of hatred in the population for immigrants. Even though on the surface it's designed to look like, oh yes, we're really helping our immigrants. We're forcing our German citizens to give up their possessions in order to serve the beneficial activity of an immigrant. But what that's really doing is it's stoking the fires of hatred in the German populations, and there is a reason for this, and it's not the most friendly reason. And so how do we deal with this as Kundalini people? Well, the first thing we do is we take the higher route if we can. We take the higher route. We play the game because it's the law of the land over there. This would be, it's like running a red light. If you refuse to take that immigrant to wherever they want to go, then you're breaking the law. And so you can be arrested, and you can be ticketed, or you can be fined, or you can be put in jail. So do your best to obey the law. When in Rome, be a Roman. You elected these people into office, and so you get to pay the price, just like here in the United States. And so do your best to obey the law, but also do your best to not form hatreds for the people, the immigrants. Everybody's an immigrant on this world. Just because you were born in a certain geographical place and you haven't left that geographical place doesn't mean that your ancestry did not travel to that geographical place from another geographical place. Everybody is an immigrant. Everyone. And you need to look at that, and you need to look at the higher expression that the Kundalini will begin to offer you. And don't just wait to have your car commandeered. Offer to take them home. See if you can get some gas money. Offer to take them home. Play the game, but play it to your benefit, the benefit of your spiritual evolution. Not just to stoke the hatred and resentment that people living in the ego world would have. But you use it in a positive way. Use it in a positive way. And that goes across the board. They have all these new laws in these countries that are certainly within Germany that is supporting the rights of immigrants and at the sacrifice rights of their own citizenry. Don't let that, if you're a citizen of these areas, do not let that corrupt you. That is an obvious opportunity for corruption. Do not let it corrupt you. Be as forgiving and sympathetic and compassionate and kind and considerate as you can possibly do without endangering yourself or your family. And if that means giving somebody a ride home from the grocery store, well, that's a small price to pay, to avoid, civil war, things of that nature. And you just might make a friend in the process. Think about that part, too. Stop living your life thinking that you own whatever part of the world that you live in. You don't own the world. The world owns you. And there's never a good enough opportunity to kill or hurt another person because you're being asked to do things that you're not used to doing. Think about your Kundalini and how it's forcing you to do things. Think about your Kundalini and the Chrism. Sorry to put you to sleep there, Tara. I know it's late at night over there, though. I get that. I'll give you a little just to wake you up, okay, when I'm done.
Okay.
You don't own the world. The world owns you. And if these laws are forcing you to be kind and considerate to immigrants that are moving in, and I know Ireland has a lot of immigrants too, but I'm pretty sure you don't have those laws. Or do you, Amelia?
No, we don't, Chrism, no. We have a lot of immigrants, but no, we do not.
Yeah, they have to find their own way from the grocery store, right?
No, we don't treat them very well. We do and we don't. We kind of corral them into areas and they're forced to stay there because they're not allowed to work and all kinds of things. So it's not very good,
wow. Wow, that is bad.
They're put up in hotels, but it's really not nice.
Oh, yeah. So in Germany and in some of the more continental countries, there's this type of tension that's being developed. And for those of you that have Kundalini, do not fall into that tension trap. Over.
Thanks, Chrism. There's a long-ish question on the group. I'm going to read it. Interrupt me when you have enough. It's a man writing about himself and his wife. And she mentioned that sometimes when he is holding her hand, she begins to feel electric shocks zipping through her hands that make her uncomfortable, and she wants to shake it off. She says that when they're praying, she feels drained. And to me, this is the very opposite of my intention, considering I always feel that I am vibrating a very loving energy. And he's feeling a bit self-conscious about this now because he has no control over it and doesn't understand why this is happening. The good thing is that when they hug, she says she always feels an amazing hum in her heart. However, he doesn't understand the other and would like some advice, please.
Well, I don't see him here. He's not in the chat room.
I noticed that. He left. And he was on the phone too.
Was he?
I think so. I think that's him. Yeah.
Oh.
Anyway.
Let's see if this.
He's gone.
Oh, he's gone. And this isn't you listening 505?
Oh, maybe it is.
Hello, 505.
Hello.
Hello.
What's
your name, sir? What's your name?
This is David.
Ah! David Grandstaff?
Nope.
Well, David, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. I'll go ahead and put you back in the listening mode.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So, Yeah. Okay. So when there's a certain level of Kundalini energy that will come in to another person. Let's say if I was to hug, let's see, Mary Jean. So I'm looking at Mary Jean here in the chat room. I'm going to give Mary Jean a big old honking hug. And oh my gosh, let's just say Mary Jean, even though she does, but we'll say that Mary Jean does not have the Kundalini yet, right? So when my Kundalini goes into her, it begins to make her energy kind of work overtime to come up to speed to the Kundalini that's enveloping her. And what that kind of, if you look at it from a physics standpoint, I think I've explained it on this program before, you have energy packets that are swirling at a certain speed from one person, and then if it's a faster speed, those energy packets are impacting the energy of the other person and forcing that person to come into a different level of energetic rotation. And that activity of pushing that person's energy a little bit faster, and I mean just even a little bit faster, can bring on a huge level of you feel very tired, you feel wiped out, you feel very you feel exhausted. And I think that's what he was describing his wife is feeling. Is that right, Santara?
Yes, yes, when they were praying together, that, and also the zapping in the hands. Yeah.
And it'll happen with devotion as well. I have a lot of people who come to me for devotion, and so when they do the devotion, when Brooke, for instance, is doing devotion, she gets zapped so fast. Really, really fast, and you just want to go to bed. You just want to go to sleep. And in essence, when I am like, say, do you have that, Amelia, when you do devotion? Does that make you tired?
Yes, it can do. Not always, but sometimes, for sure, Chrism. Absolutely.
Yeah, and when I'm consciously involved with it as well, the divine comes over us. You might say a triangle of light appears over both participants, and it's not only is my energy pushing the devotee's energy faster, but the Kundalini in my energy is also pushing my energy faster. And so it's a win-win. The whole devotional thing is so powerful, so beautiful, such a win-win for everyone that I try to never, ever refuse it, unless, they've died there here or something. I'm kidding.
Mary Jean has a question for you.
Mary Jean, love you, my dear. Okay. Do you mean that it is unfair for Kundalini awakened people to hug others? Unfair. I'm not sure unfair would be the word that I would choose. I would say it's a blessing. I'd say it's an absolute blessing. I don't care if it makes you a little tired. Maybe don't do that before you drive a car or you're skydiving or something, but I think it's a gift. So I would rephrase that. I would say, do you mean that it is a wonderful, absolute, amazing level of gifting for other people if you hug them? I would say absolutely. That's exactly what I mean. It is a beautiful gift. I
suppose for David, who was asking the question in the group, he was seeing that as very negative, and he was saying that the hugging was positive because she saw that and felt that as a positive thing. But actually the negative thing, that the ego, that's actually positive too. So he'll be delighted with that person.
He should be delighted with that. And the Kundalini knows this. Kundalini knows if they don't want the gift, Mary Jean, then they don't have to have it. But if they're in your orbit, some part of them wants it, even though their ego may not express that want. You've got to look at the higher aspect of the individual and the very fact that they're in your presence. It's not accidental. Not accidental. Even if you're just standing on a bus and people are standing next to you, and they are in your orbit. Well, they had to get on the bus at the same time that you had to get on the bus in order to have that experience. And so the scenario is that in many ways, we are not in control of our lives when it comes to the dispersal of Kundalini energetics within the population. Okay. And then getting back to Mr. Grandstaff, it's the ego that will quantify that or qualify that as negative because, oh gosh, I have all this work to do, and I was praying with my husband, and I just feel so exhausted after that. It's just, oh my gosh, now I can't wash the dishes. Make him wash the dishes. The scenario is that she married a man who would be Kundalini awakened in this life, and because of that union, because of that grace being passed back and forth to one or the other, and to both of them, there are levels of phenomena that are going to follow that. And one of those phenomena is the processing of higher speed energy or divine energy by the individual through the how do I say it? Through the institution of enforced tiredness, or sometimes you just have to really sit in a chair and process that energy, and she'll force you to do that. She'll force you to do that sometimes. Now, when you're just giving a love hug and that type of thing, well, then the Kundalini's following a different frequency with that, and the love hug is a transmission of love, and of course that will feel very enlivening and very very beautiful and very happy, and that won't tire you out as much. But when you're praying, well, that's a different deal. Okay, praying is a form of divine devotion, and devotion carries a very, very strong charge. Very strong charge. And that can give you can just feel absolutely, what's the word for really tired?
Whacked. Whacked.
You can feel really whacked. Mary Jean, thank you for the question. Mary Jean, thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks,
exhausted.
Susan.
Thank you, Atlanta Seeker. Exhausted. Yeah, the word is exhausted.
It's more than. No, it's not. It's more than exhausted. Anyway.
Extremely exhausted. Yeah. So that's and that goes across the board. Those are one of those things. This is one of those symptoms that travels to many, many, many different people. Shattered.
Shattered. I like that one. Yeah.
And Cole said knackered. I'm not sure about knackered. I mean, knacker sounds a lot more like knickers, and I'm not a real knicker man.
No, knackered works in Ireland too. Knackered. I'm knackered. Oh, I love it.
Right. Next question, my dear.
Okay, so the next question, Chrism, you'll remember it as well because it was asking. This person was reading on the group about about you saying that people with Kundalini are not ill. And she was concerned about that. And she wanted to know, how do you answer these questions? Are you receiving specific messages? All of that.
Oh, my God. I have to go over to Facebook here. And I'm going to read my response. So this is going to be me reading me, which sounds so egotistical. Oh, my God. Where are we here? Let's see. Yeah. Mm-hmm. God, that guy is so long-winded. Here we are. Okay. So he's talking about That would be a motorcycle. She's talking about me telling people not to go to their general practitioner because, and she's concerned about this. And so I said, yes, the GPs typically will not understand and will work to fight the symptoms, not understanding or even considering that this is what should be happening. They will supply heavy tranquilizers to try and control the symptoms, when in fact they are merely covering them up or often doing more damage than good. And then it's off to the psych ward if the treatment isn't going as they planned. Kundalini activated and awakening people are typically misdiagnosed with schizophrenia or bipolar or both. Kundalini people should not trust a GP, general practitioner, that isn't known to be within the knowledge of Kundalini, if they have a choice. Not giving medical advice here, just the cold, hard facts of this condition of grace within a societal structure that is ignorant of it. Science doesn't recognize divinity. Therefore, science cannot accurately treat the symptoms of divine transformation. Kundalini people are not sick. They are not ill. They are within a blessing, an activity that science does not recognize. Not saying all people who claim to have it do. I am saying that those who do have it and are within its transformation need not listen or subject themselves to the innocent ignorance of those well-meaning practitioners who cannot, due to their ignorance and hubris, understand what is going on. You would not take a broken human arm, to an octopus for treatment. Broken human arms are not within the octopus reality. Same with the Kundalini and the sleeping humans that comprise the medical community. So there you have it. Over.
Okay. Thank you, Chrism.
Welcome.
That is actually the end
The
of the
end.
questions.
Beautiful friend.
So the end is near.
All right, then. I will end this show a half hour early unless there are people here that would like to type out their question. I'm talking to anybody in the chat room. I would like to give you this opportunity to ask a question. If you like, I am happy to see Tejasri Kundalini there. Hello, Tejasri. Some of the people have received names from my Kundalini, like Santara. And Tejasri is one of those people that have been named. And she was named years and years ago. So I just want to say hello to her. And also I see Michelle Ranger. Hello to you, and David, and Mary Jean, and Lana Seeker. Lana Seeker is typing a something, and I want to wait for her. And I also see that we have Rosemary that is on the telephone. Rosemary seems to have a question, so I'm going to go ahead and bring on over to Rosemary here.
Thank you, Chrism. Well, what's going through my mind is people asking questions, and opportunity for information and experience is in being in one of your seminars. And so I wanted to, if okay with you, I will just say a little bit about our seminar coming a little bit down the road. There's time to plan. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Well, this coming seminar is in October 28th and 29th. I know as well there's something in Germany before that. And the one here will be in Mankato. It's about an hour south of the cities. We've had a lot of interest there before at other times. So we're, Katie and Joey and I are working at getting opportunities for people to hear more about Kundalini through some of the YouTubes that you have. And we will be at an expo on Saturday at Brooklyn Center, Earl Brown Center. And Chrism is showing an appearance there, appearances via Skype, and we're working on getting that set up. So my phone number is 651-329-9615, and Rosemary G, usinternet.com. Always delighted to share my experience, things that I've learned, Kristen, from you and the community, and the gift of our Sacred Mother. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to say that this evening, too. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. Thank you very much. And if you could, bring your mouth right over the microphone on your phone and give your phone number again.
651-329-9615.
9615?
651-321-9615.
Thank you. Yeah, it was cutting out a little bit, cutting out some of the numbers. So thank you. Thank you for that. Yes, indeed. I will be in Mankato at the dates that she just mentioned, and they are indeed preparing to be at this big event in Minnesota at the Mr. Brown Convention Center. And Rosemary, Katie, Joey, and the entire Kundalini community in the Twin Cities area will be there. And I encourage, if you're in that area, I encourage you to go. There'll be one of the corner booths there this Saturday in the Twin Cities. So do definitely give Rosemary a call at the number that she gave. And she is indeed Rosemary G at usinternet.com. And try to make it there. It's Rosemary and the Minnesota Kundalini community have the ability to give Kundalini blessings. I was told to show them how to do that, and I showed them how to do it, and they're very effective. They are very, very effective. So thank you, Rosemary, and the entire Minnesota Kundalini community. Thank you very much. Atlantis
and Chrism.
Yes, ma'am.
And are you going to be there? You're going to be there via Skype, I believe.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's probably not the highlight of the program.
I'm sure it's part of it, though.
I'll be there right before they all go to lunch. 10 minutes to lunch.
So will I just give a very quick rundown of the one that's coming up in Berlin then? It's coming up in September, and the 15th, the 16th, and the 17th of September. So there's going to be a day for the old Berlin group of people on the 15th, and then the usual Kundalini Awakening seminar on the 16th and the 17th with Shaktipat on that Sunday. So you can contact Manisha. And her email is manisha@postio.de.
Can you spell Manisha for them, please?
Do I say A or A?
E. MANEESHA.
Okay. MANEESHEA at POST.
No. Spell it right, please. Come on. Spell it right.
I'll try again. I get all. Okay. MANEESHA at POSTEO.de.
Thank you.
And of course, Manisha is also on the Facebook group, so you can give her a buzz. And if you want to go to Kundalini seminars and events with Chrism on Facebook, you'll get the information on all the seminars there. Thanks, Chrism.
Thank you, Santara. Thank you. And I have got a question, and Mary Jean, I will answer your question as well. Atlanta Seeker says, could you talk about lower back pain and when to suspect it's Kundalini related and how to manage it? When the Kundalini begins its rise, and it's typically a slow process, it will begin to break through the veil that encapsulates it within the last three vertebrae of the tailbone. And as it begins to dissolve that veil, it's like a bony veil, and that energy begins to dissolve and to increase the diameter of the pores within the bone and begins to seep itself into the pelvic girdle. Well, that enforced seepage of Kundalini energy is going to begin to expand the pelvic girdle. So when you have the beginning of the Kundalini beginning to come through its out of its dormant state into the skeletal structure of the body, you're going to have the pain. You'll have the tailbone pain, which typically is going to be experienced in tandem with the lower back pain of the pelvic girdle, the lower back pain, and a lot of people that have a weight problem, let's say they got a big gut and they're carrying a lot of weight in front of them, can really they can have a similar form of pain because the lower three vertebrae are being pulled out of alignment by the 40 or 50 pounds of gut of fat that their spine is being forced to carry. And this can also begin a very, very strong level of lower back pain as well. Not to mention the knees being shot, and from the knees down to the ankles and the feet, et cetera, et cetera. So it does behoove us to keep ourselves trim as we can in order to keep our skeletal structure balanced. And I speak for myself too. So as that energy begins to seep through the cellular structures of the pores within the bone, that bone is being forced to expand. The expansion is what causes the pain. How to manage that? Off as much of the gut as you can. Really begin to take out starches and fats and anything that will collect on the front of you that will hyperflex the back of you into an unnatural or a super artificially enforced curvature of the spine that you don't need. That will take away a lot of the pain. As far as the Kundalini forcing its way through the diameter of the cellular structures and increasing the size of the pores within the bone, you're not going to get away from that. Most of the time, people just feel it as a pressure, though. It doesn't typically lend itself to an outright pain. Most of the time. Some of the time, if a person is let's say a person knows that it's Kundalini and then they're doing everything they can do to deny it, well, then they will feel it as a pain. It will become a definite pain in the lower spine, and that person will have to just begin to work towards ways of finding themselves in balance with it. But for a person who isn't in resistance, well, if you get rid of the excess fat that's on the front of the body, takes the strain and the stress off the lower part of the body, and allows the Kundalini to come up, you'll feel it more as just a pressure. And be sure to not equate a pressure as a pain. Pressure does not always mean pain. Okay? And there's no pill or tablet or drug or anything like that that is going to take away that pressure. What will take it away is the spinal sweep. Will take that away, or the activation as the energy is allowed to move up and up and up the spine. As you go into that without resistance, that pain will begin to mitigate or balance itself at the base of the spine. Okay. And with Mary Jean's question, she says, "What do you mean by a Kundalini blessing? Is that like Shaktipat?" No, it's an Ishta. And it's a very, Ishta is invitation in Sanskrit. And it's an invitation to experience a form of temporary Kundalini grace. It's very gentle, but it's tactile. You can feel it. But unless now, if a person is just so primed that they're at the tipping point, the feather on the camel's back that makes the camel collapse, well, if they're there, then they could possibly be activated that way. And then, of course, they would be shown the safeties and they would be given, all the information that they need. But it is a potent blessing. It is certain things are whispered into the right ear, certain things are whispered into the left ear. Now, each person within the Minnesota Kundalini community, they've kind of developed their own way of doing it, which is perfect because it's their Kundalini speaking to them how to give the invitation of itself to this person. It's not forcing Kundalini on people. It's not that at all. So don't think that would be what it is. It's not that. It's a very beautiful greeting card, you might say, that has Kundalini on the envelope. And it looks like Rosemary has another question here, and I'm going to bring her over. Yes, Rosemary. Hello.
No, did I push a button by mistake?
Oh, no, it's okay, honey. It's all right. It's all right. Okay, so yeah, so it's like having it on the envelope there. And let's see, Mary Jean is typing. She says, thank you, and you're most welcome, my dear. I'm going to go back to Centaur here, and getting a little windy there. And,
sorry
Emerald
for
Isle.
2 seconds. Okay, now.
Do you have any last words, my dear?
I posted, this is in relation to the cocoon and the Kundalini butterfly. I posted on my page a couple of days ago a time-lapse video of a caterpillar coming out of the cocoon. And what was very interesting was, the caterpillar came out of the cocoon and climbed up onto a little twig. But it stayed there for a very long time after the cocoon. And it took a really long time for those wings to unfold slowly. And a very long time before eventually it was able to stretch those wings out. And I suppose I always think of the cocoon being the part that's really, really slow, that takes some time. But the emergence afterwards, that also was a phase, and I hadn't thought about that, of how long that can take as well before the wings are stretched and able to actually, fly.
Absolutely.
Just my thoughts.
Yeah, and it does take a while. It could take lifetimes for us.
Yeah.
And depending on and you don't want to have any artificial help with that either. Artificial help, like taking a drug or something like that. You want that to allow itself. It's not always going to be comfortable, ladies and gentlemen. It should not always be comfortable. Be aware of that. Like I was saying with the general practitioners, they're trying to mitigate symptoms that should be happening, that are in the best interest of the people that are having the Kundalini. These symptoms should be happening, and they're trying to stop it. Okay. So it's not always comfortable, and it's not always comfortable for people around you. It's not comfortable for a mother to see their son going into Kriyas that are fairly looking like grand mal seizures. Makes you want to reach for that telephone and dial the hospital. But that's not the case. They need to go through that movement. Okay. It's not always comfortable to be possessed by entities, but you've got to go through it. Sometimes. Not always comfortable. Kundalini is not a pleasure cruise all the time. Sometimes it can be. Any last words, my dear?
No, Chrism, just thank you very, very much. Thank you really very much, and your Kundalini, and everybody who's in the chat room. Hi. It's a lovely gathering every week in the chat room. So anybody listening, join us in the chat room. It's a very nice place to be while you're listening to the show. And thanks, Chrism, and see everybody next week again.
Agreed, and ditto with what Amelia Centaura just said, and thank you all for joining us. And I look forward to joining this online Kundalini community next week. Same Kundalini channel, same Kundalini station. Here we go.
Jetzt im King des Monats. Der saftig zarte Long Chicken mit großen King Pommes und Softdrink für nur $4,49 bei Burger King.